Hide your kids, hide your wives, hide all of your executive producers because everybody is getting fired. Everybody is getting wiped out. And ironically, not even in a Donald Trump apprentice way, although what a twist of events. Who would have seen this coming? I'll tell you who didn't see this coming: Nostradamus. I don't know how he missed this. How this man managed to miss two of legacy cable network TV's golden boys getting canned on the exact same day, merely moments apart. Okay. In our culture's history, both being completely blindsided, like blindsided harder than your average swimmer in the locker room with Leah Thomas turning the wrong way, not hiding behind a locker. It is crazy. But we are going to take it all in today and move onward and upward, people. And if I feel a little giddy with joy, it's not in an obnoxious, ignorant, hypocritical AOC way, which I'm going to get to. It's because I actually see where this is all going. Not just your girl here coming for the crowns and the thrones of Don Lemon and Tucker Carlson, right? But what this says about power and media and moving and grooving with information and people with a voice from here. So in case you missed it, like in case you are actually filming the reboot of the movie Up and you're living in some sort of, hot air balloon, this week, this Monday, let it be known this day in history, it will soon be in textbooks heard around the world, right? Don Lemon gets fired from CNN and Tucker Carlson gets fired from Fox News. Now, both were completely unceremonious and out of the goddamn blue. So in Tucker Carlson's case, right, this obviously was on the heels of the entire Dominion Fox News lawsuit. We don't know how much, which don't worry, I'm going to dive into those details. You just hang on to your tighty whities, to your panties. We're going to get there. Okay. We don't know how much that had to do with his firing, but it ain't no coincidence. Like timing is timing, no matter how much you Marty McFly time machine that shit, like that all just kind of had the fallout. And here goes Tucker, like bye-bye from Fox News, literally so out of the blue that they were promoting his specials he was doing, his show like that night. Right. And that morning, from what we're hearing, they basically were like, you're not doing your show tonight. Like you can say goodbye to your company email. Like it is no more. It is not even your pen pal. Like it's out of here. Right. Again, not even an hour apart, we hear about Don Lemon. This guy, so this comes on the heels of his whole controversy around misogynistic, sexist remarks about Nikki Haley, right? Talking to a female or two female co-hosts about how Nikki Haley, a Republican candidate for president, is past her prime because she's in her 50s, right? This happened weeks ago, but apparently people aren't feeling Donnie Don anymore. They're like, Don, like we're not here for that vibe, bro. So I guess viewers were less inclined to tune in. Either way, CNN pulled the plug on this guy, and he did his morning show on Monday and supposedly found out through his agent, not even through anyone at the network, despite being there for 17 years. Like that shit is rough, like not even in a good rough in the sheets kind of way, just like rough, like walk of shame, 12 noon on a 90-degree day kind of day, like out in the open, rough. So he goes on a Twitter thing saying, I was completely blindsided. No one warned me about this. Whereas CNN is claiming they offered a meeting to kind of sit down with him. But I'm speculating that they shit canned him and that they offered the meeting. Like it was, their decision was made, but they were like, if you want to talk about this, like in a safe space, you can do that. But he's claiming again, like it was just, so disrespectful and totally out of the blue, right? And that they didn't offer him like an olive branch, anything. Again, found out that the agent, no one would offer to speak to him, or they claim otherwise, what have you. So that kind of is the big picture of what has gone down. Like, shit is so crazy. It is like it is the bicentennial. It is 1999, 2012, end of the world rapture here in legacy media. Okay. That we never saw coming. So what's crazy is, like I said, for Don Lemon, like, kind of not that much of a surprise because of everything that had just happened. But with Tucker, people were completely shocked because he is Fox News's golden boy. He is the face of the network. He's absolutely been like crushing it, which is why now you have, you know, the Candace Owens, the Megyn Kellys, the Ben Shapiros. Like, these people are in all black. They're having a funeral. They are mourning the loss of democracy, right? Because of this and because of deplatforming someone like Tucker. But you have the AOCs of it all and the left mainstream, if you will, literally having a parade in the streets. Like, it is the Macy's Thanksgiving Day parades, psycho Siamese twin sister on steroids, because it's like, ding dong, Tucker the witch is dead. And the crazy thing is, there is so much hypocrisy that I'm gonna lay out for you all. Like, the red carpet is not laying out at the headquarters of Fox or CNN for either of these respective dudes, right? So the reason that most people are thinking, right, it's what I alluded to before, is the entire Dominion lawsuit settlement with Fox News. So in a nutshell, when the whole 2020 election was going on, right, and Trump was going on his whole thing about how this is stolen, stop the steal, Fox News and its hosts were really sort of perpetuating this narrative that Trump was right and that the Dominion voting machines were rigged, you know, that they were tampered with to give the votes to dinosaur Joe Biden. They allowed people like Sidney Powell, right, to be on their platforms and really kind of reinforce this and allude to the fact that this could actually really be plausible and that this could be happening right now, that this election is being stolen from Trump. These voting machines are being tampered with and votes are being given to Biden. Now, what we come to find out, right, is these people, like the Jekyll and Hyde Sybil, you never knew. Like, watch out, Meryl, because these people are straight up coming for all your Oscars. Is that behind the scenes, they were texting, there's texts and emails claiming otherwise, saying things like Trump is a madman and all these things, and doubting these claims yet again, allowing this to be sort of perpetuated on air. So this is like the brunt of it all. And Fox just settled a nearly, $1 billion settlement to Dominion, basically to just like make it go away, because Dominion claimed that it was defamation, right, against their company. So there are other things that could be at play here, and we don't really know the deets yet. Like, someone needs to play a little Sherlock Holmes and get in on that bitch, because I also trust no bitch, which is what this whole episode is ultimately going to be about, you'll see. But some other possibilities of what's going on is that, there were also unearthed emails, I believe, texts of Tucker just completely, like, straight up derogatory text about the powers that be at Fox News, allegedly calling a top female exec. My guess is that it was the CEO, the C word, like not CEO, but the other, you got this, Mad Libs, you got it, put this together. So talking shit on them in a major way. And like, the big powers that be, they know likey that. I don't care if it's your superintendent. I don't care if it's your bus driver. I don't care if it's the Fox News CEO. No one in this bitch is going to tolerate, the people below them talking shit on them, right? So there's that. Meanwhile, there's also a lawsuit coming after him for allegedly creating a hostile work environment, i.e. sexist and anti-Semitic remarks. What a time. Fox just like didn't want to deal with that. Or the idea that Tucker became bigger than Fox itself, right? And had almost like too much power, which again, why is what made this like whole thing so shocking. So like I said, the left is having Kool and the Gang celebrate good times, come on, like you have never seen, because they're like, see, all they do is lie. Fox News is a news. And let me just say here, I ain't defending Fox News, okay? And I'll tell you this much, I was on Fox News. I was on Brett Breyer's special report, and I will hold it down for the people who ain't lying on Fox News, because I'll tell you everything I said that day was and remains to be truth. Okay. So some of us, have some journalistic, ethical integrity people, but so I'm not defending them, right? Like, this isn't journalism, sort of pandering to your base, believing potentially one thing, pushing another thing. And that's not cool. That's not okay. And that is not journalism. However, let's call a spade here. Okay. The people celebrating this so much, lying, whether it be blatantly through their teeth, okay, whether it be misconstruing or misleading or leaving things out, lying to their audiences, to all of us, it's their favorite hobby in this lifetime. And that's why I say that it is so hypocritical, because it's like, how do you not see this? Or as it pertains to all of this, do you see it and you just don't care and you're going to point fingers as if you don't do it at all? Like, it is insane. An example, right, is how AOC, which again is the biggest theatrical drama queen I've ever seen in my life, beyond annoying, but she did this whole video celebrating the deplatforming of Tucker Carlson, being like, this is a win because he's incited violence and lies, and like, this is a good day. You know what I mean? It's like, this is a good day. Like, what? I'm sorry. Like, what is this? Like a sweet 16 or a quinceanera? It's a good day, a bat mitzvah? No. Like, and this is again where the right is having losing their minds, because they're like, this is the death of democracy, and Tucker was a real renegade and said what he thought and blah, blah, blah. But let me just elaborate for you just how much. I mean, the examples are a dime a dozen, right? And someone said to me, like, prove these lies that are pushed, right? This is where they gaslight you, because it's like, we see it all the live long day. And then they're like, well, give me a concrete example. It's like, I've said it. It's like, turn on CNN for 10 minutes and there you go. I just spared you the rest of your life. Like, you're welcome. You can thank me later. But let's lay out some prime, current, relevant examples that you just can't ignore about how, yet again, these people celebrating the fact that people like Fox News lie when they themselves are the liars in chief. So number one is, how could we forget, but the COVID lab leak theory. And here's what I want to point out, right? I'm not saying it has to be the exact same thing as what we've come to find with Fox News, right? How they would potentially behind the scenes speculate and say one thing and on air allude to something different. Lying is lying, period. So I'm not saying, potato. I'm not saying it's the exact same thing, but it's a different version of it, right? This shit will shapeshift like Maleficent and haunt your dreams, and it doesn't care. The lab leak theory, when all of this was first going on, now they could argue, we really didn't think, we didn't know, or we didn't think that it came from a lab, right? But at the time when this was theorized, they completely shut it down. It was like, no, that's wrong. You can't, it's censored. You can't say that. You can't even allude to that. Absolutely not. But this was something that was actually completely plausible, common sense, if you will, like, major virus lab in Wuhan, where the Wuhan virus emerged. Interesting. It's not from a rat hanging upside down, doing the limbo at your local market. Weird, right? But you couldn't even say that. They wouldn't even acknowledge it as a possibility, right? When it could be totally probable. So number one, it's like, why can't we acknowledge that it would be totally probable? And at least if this is journalism, give us all the facts and the information and at least include it in the conversation, right? So that's number one, is how they would just completely censor and not even allow it to be said. But further, and you'll see this with the other examples, they would double and triple and quadruple down, like, John and Kate +8, about why they were right. So with the lab leak theory, which now is proving to be true, every legitimate organization is like, well, this is awkward. So looks like the pandemic that ruined all of our lives did in fact come from a Wuhan lab, right? Did in fact prove to be true, but they would double and triple down, like I said, to literally go out of their way to reinforce why you couldn't say it and why it couldn't be true. They'd be like, you're a racist, you're a xenophobe, you hate bats and rats, like all these things that they would just literally pull out of their ass, right? So in my mind, it's almost worse than lying, because it's like, it could have been true. You kept it from everybody. And then you reinforced 3 times over about why it was wrong and bad and how you couldn't say it. And the cherry on top is that it actually was true. So you guys fucked us. Thanks very much for that, right? Like, what a good time that we're all having. And another perfect example of this is the Hunter Biden laptop story. And with all of these examples, I mean, come on, these are somewhat competent people out here, you know, on primetime TV, giving us the information in the news. Like, I have to believe that they are somewhat competent. And I have to believe that with all of these things, they were behind the scenes, at least maybe thinking in their little thoughts or texting, like, really? I don't know. Like, this shit seems like it could be true, right? And same thing with Fox, would go on and say something completely else. Like, you can't tell me with any of these things that I'm laying out or about to lay out, they didn't speculate otherwise behind the scenes. Like, it takes, you know, 3 brain cells, 4 on a bad day. Like, this isn't hard, right? Like, this is not rocket science. So another example was the Hunter Biden laptop story, okay? Which was, again, completely taboo. Couldn't be mentioned, couldn't be muttered, couldn't be whispered, couldn't even be played, God forbid, in a game of, you know, in the comfort of your home of Cards Against Humanity or a game of telephone. Like, they would come for you because, nope, this isn't his, this can't be a thing. It is not something to be mentioned, right? When the country's first newspaper reported this story, it's censored and taken off Twitter right before the election, right? Because what is on this, what ends up being on this laptop, things that could be detrimental to the Biden family. So what are we going to do? We're going to bury this shit 6 feet under and never give it the light of day. And further, again, act like you're crazy for even acknowledging that it could be true. Like, they take, forget the story, they take the whole New York Post account off of Twitter, right? Again, completely censor it. Isn't covered by any of these mainstream, again, not even worth being covered. And the exact same thing applies. Meanwhile, Hunter Biden's former business partner, okay, with emails on that laptop, verified, those emails are mine. The info is indeed real. The man, the poor man at this computer store where the laptop was, also verified. This is Hunter Biden's laptop, folks, indeed. And, okay, at the time, the FBI is in the middle of investigating Hunter Biden, and this was public knowledge, for things that are actually on that laptop. Aside from the fact that there's actual documentation, photographic evidence of Hunter Biden's penis. Like, sorry to your sex tape, Ray J, okay? Yes, all right there for everybody to see. But no, guess none of this is worth looking into, folks. Again, nothing to see here. It had obvious reasons for being included in the dialogue, for even being looked at, for being shared with the American people, right? Probability that it could be true. And oopsie, what do we have here? It actually does turn out to be true. Same exact thing. And again, you're going to sit here and tell me that behind the scenes they're like, yeah, can't even imagine the shit going down on that laptop. But again, nothing to be seen, you know, in the prime time hour. Hypocrites. Perhaps, you know, last but not least, maybe my most favorite example of the day is none other than the president of the United States, the leader of the free world's cognitive abilities. Okay, let's talk about the fact that this man, the leader of democracy, isn't trusted to be in front of a group of journalists to speak ever. They literally hide him away, okay? Like, the girl from The Exorcist cannot be brought into the public because this man, you can't honestly tell me that this guy is mentally well. Everything he says, right, is like your deranged grandpa at Thanksgiving. And you're like, okay, grandpa, like, time to take a nap now, like, time to go to bed now. Nothing makes sense. The guy doesn't know where he is. He references people who are dead, being like, where's Mary? Mary's dead. You're talking at her funeral tomorrow, right? is asked a question from a little kid, like, what is the recipe to success? Here's the leader of the free world. Like, I don't really know. I'm the wrong person to ask. Okay. Who would the right person to be to ask? Like my tree outside? What? Nothing ever makes sense. He's jibber jabbering through everything. And it's honestly concerning. It's honestly concerning that the president of the United States isn't trusted to answer any questions from the press, do press conferences, be left alone without an actual chaperone. Like you are about to bump and grind and get low at your 6th grade dance. That is concerning. You can't honestly tell me from the bottom of your hearts that these people aren't concerned. If they have eyes, if they have ears, if they have brains that critically think and process any kind of information whatsoever, they would wonder this, right? But it's yet again, never covered. Don't you dare ever say that. And again, with the tripling down. I remember after the State of the Union, Don Lemon is over here. Meanwhile, this guy can't string 2 thoughts together. And Don Lemon is like, here is Joe Biden, a vivacious leader of the free world, building back better and taking us to bigger and better things over the rainbow. And I'm thinking to myself, like, can this guy even put his grandpa underwear on straight? Like, does someone wipe his asshole for him? I'm genuinely concerned. Okay. It's not right. And this is where they need to, get their shit together. And this is why I call out the people like the AOCs, because it's like, again, maybe it's not the blatant, texting behind the scenes and then on air saying something different, but no matter how you slice it, potato, now we're on tomato, lying is lying. And it's like what I would say again with this, even with the Dominion, right? Maybe they didn't think that it was true, but maybe they had reason to believe maybe it could be true, right? Same thing goes for these. There was reason to believe that the leak came from a lab, that there's shit to be investigated on Hunter Biden's laptop, that Joe Biden can't even recite the ABCs, okay? In a mirror, never mind in front of a group of reporters. So again, with all these things proving to be true, it's almost worse than lying, right? And they do it all the time. They do it with, guys, think about it, okay? I can name a million things off the top of my head. The border, like there is an influx in the border, like literally, I think breaking our country's history, right? And they're like nothing and nothing at all, nothing to see here. Are you kidding? Like there's an influx there harder than a crowd at Coachella, to get their best influencer shot with the little setup for your photo op. And your ass is about to get trampled. Inflation, same thing. It's like, why am I spending $17 on 3 eggs at Publix? Because inflation is at an all-time high of what, in 40 years? Over spanning decades? Okay. And these people are like playing it down. Oh, no big deal. Economy is, shaking its ass and thriving. Like, I beg to differ. It's insanity. Another example that I've laid out before for you on the show is violence, right? And the crime that's gone on in these huge cities. It's like we can't even go a day without a McDonald's being on fire, and not from their new supposedly very fluffy potato buns and the upgrade there, but from straight up anarchy going on and the chaos and animalistic behavior in all of these cities. Things ablaze, shit getting stolen, looting, and all this shit. And they look the other way. Not only are they like, it is a mostly peaceful, like you may as well be in a meadow in the Sound of Music, like Julie Andrews. Like it is super peaceful out there. They don't acknowledge it. When you can see with your own eyes, again, what's happening. And if you don't believe me and the video footage right before your eyes, why don't you talk to the Shake Shack in Portland without even being open for business to the public yet? Is vandalized, like no time to kill. Can't even be enjoying your crinkle cut fries in peace. There are stores literally being shut down because of crime. Starbucks, if you will, stores actually closing because of this looting, because of this violence. It doesn't get any clearer than the former Chicago mayor, an outspoken progressive who was soft on crime nonetheless, Lori Lightfoot, who recently came out literally acknowledging this in broad daylight, blatantly being like, this is real, this violence is out of control. Everybody sees it and you can't ignore it at this point. Again, what have been nice when you actually were mayor. Funny that this is coming now, but exactly. Can't even ignore it. Same thing with when violence actually happens, how they will manipulate or play up or mislead about, depending on who they like or don't like, or if the facts are convenient, who perpetrators are, who victims are, right? Conveniently leaving out, like if there's a perpetrator or a shooter who is of a minority group, who's trans, who's of color, conveniently they leave that out. But if it happens to be a white person, it's, you know, the KKK, you know, banners in the sky. Like they do this all day long. So all of this just goes to show it is so clear. Both sides of this, the right, if you will, the Fox News and the CNNs, the MSNBCs, the mainstream left, if you will, they all do this. They report based, everything is narrative driven. And I know these are buzzwords that we hear all the time, but they include and they shine a spotlight on facts that support their narrative and not the other way around, right? They'll be like, okay, if this looks good for us, if this is good for our overall cause, we are going to, you know, we're going to be that thing's hype man, right? But if it's inconvenient or if it's against their narrative or if it's going to make someone like a Joe Biden look bad, they're going to censor that, okay? And they're going to put you in solitary confinement for even thinking it. Both sides. And the sad part is, which I have personal experience in, and that this is really shining a light on, is how when you think about it, this is down to the hosts, if you will, the faces of these legacy networks playing into the powers that be at these legacy organizations. When you really think about it, you know that they're behind the scenes, they're talking shit, they're speculating, they're thinking this, they're thinking that, and yet saying another thing on air. Why? Because they want to protect their own ass. They want to protect their paychecks, continue to be the faces of these organizations and thrive and gain more power as long as they're suckling the little teat tits of the powers that be and what they deem appropriate and okay and fits their narrative. And that's the sad part. I mean, you guys know I experienced that at a huge mainstream entertainment media company myself, VH1. It feeds into this very thing, right? When I called out a major celebrity, Chrissy Teigen, I called her out for being a bully and a hypocrite on Twitter. She didn't like it. She publicly came after me after VH1, the platform I had written the story for. And basically they didn't like this. The narrative was protect the celebrity, the writer's the scapegoat, the writer's wrong, and suspended me. I see how it works. It's like, God forbid you step out of the line of the powers that be. And this is the shit that happens, like this isn't time now in kindergarten. Like this shit is real life and the pressure is real. At the time, people were telling me, just keep your head down, take the story down, just stay quiet for a little while. And I was like, I'll show you quiet. Right. And I quit on the rest. I was like, see you later. Ta-ta, toodaloo. Like if you're going to show that much, having my back and you're going to show that dedication to me, I'm going to show it right back. Right. Which is actually where I have empathy for like a Don Lemon who was there for 17 years. Cause when this shit comes out of the blue, it is aggressive. You're like, God damn, where is the loyalty in this bitch? Right. So I can totally understand how that works. I mean, I've been on the brunt of it and I get it. And it's very intimidating. It's like when you have this big powerhouse versus you, it's easy to be intimidated to do and say what they want of you, right? Which I think is so blatantly obvious of what happened with both of these things here, which again, it's shining, like shame on all of you, because basically the moral of the story is round and round you all go to your own demise, like trying to cover your own ass, push your narratives, and we're on to y'all, right? And you all are sinking harder than the ship that not only is Johnny Depp in the Pirates of the Caribbean, but Johnny Depp and Amber Heard's court videos that will go down and stand the test of time. These organizations and these powers in media with information and information flow, it's everywhere, right? Even an organization, despite how I feel about it, like a TikTok. I recently spoke out, for example, about Dylan Mulvaney, who is you guys probably know if you listen regularly to my show, my last 2 solo episodes were all about this trans influencer out here twirling in dresses like Eloise and promoting things like tampons, right? And all I said in my argument, which was it was fair and it was honest and it was true, was the idea of let people be in their own lanes. I literally said trans women are trans women and women are women. And let's stop trying to pretend like the two are the exact same thing from the bottom up, like body parts and anatomy, how explicit you want to get with that or not, right? Both of these groups of people can be acknowledged and honored for who they are, but stop trying to make it like they're the exact same thing, AKA maybe, the tampon, promotion from a biological man who was a trans woman should have been a pass, in my opinion, right? But the bigger implications of this when it comes to stepping on women, right? Nothing even about that it's wrong, that it's bad. In fact, I'm like, trans women should be celebrated who they are. Nothing about the ins and outs of biological sex. And TikTok took down the video for hateful content. Case in point, leave it to our current environment for, again, naming something to be totally fair, compassionate, and true to be deemed hateful. It is officially 1984, okay? And I'll see you in the textbooks. It's interesting, too, to look back in hindsight, because being at a huge legacy media establishment like a VH1, I've experienced layoffs, again, not to this degree, but I can speak to, it is definitely jarring. Like, it's jarring for us as the public. And this is where I actually do have empathy for Tucker and for Dawn, because it's like, they literally are like, get your shit and go. It's like a Beyonce to the left moment. It's like, here's the call from your agent, from this person, again, locked out of your email, locked out of the meeting, like, don't even come on the premises. And, or you will not have a good time. You know what I mean? Like a pedophile near a playground. Like, we're just not trying to have that moment happen. And I know what that's like. I'll never forget when I was at VH1, they did layoffs and they were massive. It was like the VP of this, the, EP of this. And it was literally like a nuclear bomb went off. You would literally go from office to office and you didn't know who would be left, because they were told, like, get your shit and go. Can't even say a goodbye. I remember I went home that night and just cried. It's a lot. It's emotionally taxing and it's heavy. And for these guys, I could see that. It's like, damn, the savagery. It's like, you can't even say goodbye, right? But this is what happens with the powers that be when they're going to do what they do. Another part of this to me that shines a light on what is so fascinating is the idea that ultimately cancel culture, which, we're here on Cancel Me Baby. So let's really make it, a 360 merry-go-round moment, right? Cancel culture comes round and round. Take Don Lemon, for example, like saying, this woman's past her prime. She's only 15. He's saying this as a guy. Do I think he should have been canceled for this? No. You guys know how I feel about this. I think that we're all human. We make mistakes. We need to be able to talk about this shit and air it out, and move past it. And that's what's so fascinating. It's like, eventually it comes for everyone. Like, it is a game of dominoes, and the kind where y'all are wiped out and you all lose. Nobody is safe, right? Who else was in this Pirates of the Caribbean ship sank Titanic explosion but BuzzFeed? And the reason BuzzFeed's basically bankruptcy, closing, shutting down operations like sayonara is so shocking is because it's the first legacy media organization to shut down. Again, what is the common, like, what's happening here? BuzzFeed, to me, you guys know I've called them out on Cancel Me Baby time and time again. They are the cancelers in chief. It is all they do. Every single post, every other post, this person's being fat shaming, this person's ageist, this person's sexist. And they ran out of steam. They ran out of steam with that shit because they can't stay afloat. No pun intended. They're closing down operations. People have had it. We don't care. That's only going to take you so far. And, it's a little bit of a shame because I would love to see these people like go to these other legacy medias and legacy media organizations and just have fodder and see what kind of nonsense they have to spew out today. But that remains to be seen. But what does that say? They are all going down one by one. Seriously. It is like the purge out here. Just now, we found out that Vice News is even shutting down a branch of its operations, laying off people left, right, and sideways. Seriously. Nobody is safe. And it's like, what don't you get? What don't you guys get that this content ain't keeping you afloat? This isn't what people care about or want. Even, this is a sidebar, but the fact that Tucker Carlson was Fox News's #1 golden boy, brought in like was the most viewed across, forget Fox News, across all of cable, right? Brought in 3.3 about million people a night. And despite being most watched, he was also arguably the hardest to monetize in the sense of like bringing in mainstream advertisers. Whereas like a Sean Hannity could have gotten so much more for a similar advertisement on his show because he's not as polarizing and inflammatory and what have you, right? And that's what is so crazy and so shocking. It's like, right, because that's the ecosystem of how these legacy organizations operate, right? Off of like, this is how they do things, off of the old school advertising and of this and of that. And the crazy thing about all of this is, let's not forget, the AOCs and all of these people can be dancing in the streets, but Tucker Carlson is going to build back better. No. And this is coming from someone like, I'm by no means a Tucker Carlson stan or a groupie. Like, I can respect him and, respect things he said and that he really pushed up against the man. But you don't think the Daily Wire is probably having to rewrite new contract papers because they're jerking off on them every 5 seconds. Like, you don't think that these people are getting their shit ready to get Tucker Carlson? Like, people are going to want to watch him and he's going to be bigger than ever. And my guess is make more money than ever, right? Like a Joe Rogan, and go somewhere kind of indie and on his own, whether it be like a Spotify, a Daily Wire, whatever it is. What all of this shows me, whether it be Don Lemon, whether it be Tucker Carlson, whether it be BuzzFeed in the canceled pits of hell, right, is that the legacy media is dying. And when I say that cancel culture is coming for everyone, they're going to take them out one by one, like line them up and there you go, because people are going to need and want voices outside of this shit. I get more calls from my mom probably in a day than CNN gets of people tuning into their shows per week. Like, none of these people can stay afloat. Cancel culture is going to come for everybody eventually, and people are going to seek honest, true voices that say what they really think outside the confines of these mainstream little advertisers, outside the confines of the powers that be, puppet masters really running the show here. And that is the future. And that is why I am giddy with joy with all of this, because I see myself on this train, stepping outside of this as the legacy media. It's a slow burn and dies a slow death. It's also the emergence of voices that should be heard and that people want to hear, that are honest and true and not caving to any of this bullshit, period. So I know I'm on that train. That's where we're headed. That's where the powerful voices are going to be. That's where people are going to be drawn to. And here at Cancel Me Baby, I say, you all better giddy up. Are you ready for the ride?